it seems like all the members of the board are on, so I'm going to cease this conversation, and I'm going to call the Zoning Board of Appeals to order at 7:01 p.m. on Wednesday, November 17th. The first article on the agenda is the continued public hearing of the application of Mike Cronin for a special permit under sections 4.1.10F, 6.1.2, and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw, and or other relief as may be necessary for the renovation of an existing sports court with a proposed expansion to 45 to 63 feet and installation of a new sports court surface tile at 151 Bridge Street, Assessors Map number 26, lot number 33 in District C, filed with the town clerk on July 15th, 2021. And we originally opened this public hearing on August 25th, 2021. At which point we received a presentation, we received some information from the abutter to the west and the abutter's attorney, raising concerns regarding the fact that the sports court as it exists today is inconsistent with the special permit that was issued in 2012. For instance, it seems to be larger than originally approved and has lights. And we never did receive a survey. So if Mike Cronin is on, I'm going to ask him whether any building permits were pulled for any of the changes made to the sports court since 2012.
No, they have not, Sarah.
Okay. So the challenge we have is the sports court today is not really legal. We certainly could deny the application, which would still leave us with an illegal sports court. And the remedy for that would be for an abutter to go to the enforcement officer and ask for an order to be placed. You could then appeal it, and then it would come back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Seems a little circular. So I'm wondering if there is any way to consider various conditions that might make this acceptable to both the abutter and to you. And I don't know if that is something we should discuss or not.
I mean, if I can speak, I mean,
Yes.
what we're trying to do here is to expand the court using a pervious sport tile to the 45 by 63. It does expand it. Right now, there's this combination of pavement and cinder that it would lay right down on top of. I think part of the confusion and some of the negativity was based around the summer of 2020 and COVID. And at that time, I did have quite a bit of use at my court while all the towns were closed in Manchester, all the sports courts, all the parks, and then all the surrounding towns. If I can say, it was never meant to offend the neighbors. In fact, I never heard from any neighbor during the summer of 2020, not one comment or complaint. I am a high school basketball coach. I am a club basketball coach, and I am a big proponent of kids. And what I was doing was providing a place to play versus kids sitting around playing on their computers, and giving them a chance to to basically play basketball. It's a recreational use. It's no different than my swimming pool. In fact, the neighbor to my west, my swimming pool is actually closer to their bedroom window than my sport court is. And again, this is a recreational surface. My son's a very good basketball player. He plays on the high school team. We had a bunch of friends over that summer. All we're trying to do is expand it and make it quieter with the court, with no, we will not have teams. We will not have kids. There's not a business. So the allegations of it being a business are just false. I saw the attorney's presentation. In fact, even one of the pictures was taken from my side of the property when the member, and you all were there, was asked not to take it. And one of the pictures was taken, was actually submitted from him in there. And that's just not right. We're not trying to do anything illegal here. All we're trying to do is have a little bit of a fun sport called basketball and enjoy my property. The tile is 20% quieter. It really doesn't change the impervious nature of the court. It would still be 12% of my property. And I can tell you, since July 10th, there have been counting three people that have played basketball on my court. So 3, including my son, since July 10th. So I hardly would say that would be a business. The again, noting from the people to my west attorney, there was some social media posts. It was about fun. It was about, let's get the kids outside. Let's play a little bit. Okay. And I did admit that I did, in fact, probably overdo it. And again, that I apologize for, and I have. We tried to meet with our neighbor. He did not want to meet in person. And I made numerous attempts, of which I have both in writing and others. So really, the other thing that you brought up, Sarah, was the lights. The lights have been removed. I did that in good faith, and something that I did. It was not ever intended to. The lights were never on after. I think the latest they were on was about 8:45 on a summer night, maybe 9 o'clock. They were not on all summer. They were not on once. They have, in fact, been removed. That was a mistake on my part. And they had been up in 2012. It was not done to try to be sneaky. I just thought I could do it, and I was wrong. But that was the first time I've heard of it, when I noticed their attorney's letter. And in fact, it has been removed. I've got images to show you if you want to see, but the lights are gone. So really what we're trying to do is just have a court where I can use my backyard for my son and a few of my son's friends. I am more than willing to compromise on the number of hours that it's used per week. I've had very good communication with neighbors on my east side, both 2 Jersey Lane and 4 Jersey Lane, of which they see, they're perfectly fine with everything. They're in the group of the support letters, as well as I did have one additional support letter that I sent to you today, Sarah and Gail. So really, that's really where it is from my side. We're just trying to lay down this, you saw it at the meeting. It's really this pervious tile. Again, it's quieter. It's environmentally much better than pavement. And yes, it does expand from what the original thing was. And that's what I think that's what we're looking for to be voted on, is the proposal of which we submitted, not what was done in the past. So this is a new request.
Right, but the question is with that tile, the asphalt area is much larger than was originally approved. Are you willing to remove all of that asphalt and have the tiles sit on stone dust, which I would think would be much quieter?
I'd be willing to do that. Yes. Again, that's initially we thought we were all the way up to 63 feet, and that's not the case. So we're trying to get to 63 feet. Again, the lights were removed. the original that was approved in 2012 is 29 by 46, which is 1,334 square feet. And, you know, that's where it is today. If I have to remove that other part, I'm willing to do that. And I'm not so sure that'll be much quieter, but if that is what is willing to do for the zoning board, then I'm happy to do that.
I also noticed that at the site visit, there was stone dust in the setback on the west side, and there was a base for a light in the setback on the west side.
That base is not being used.
Can that stuff be removed?
Sure.
And what are you thinking about restricting hours of operation?
I mean, I'm more than what I had talked to my neighbor before. He was asking for, 25 hours a week, 3 or 4 hours a day, if that's the case, and not to start before 9 a.m. and not to go after whatever's agreeable, 7 or 8. I'm more than happy to appease anyone and everyone. So it could be in the summertime, it could be a little bit later. 4 hours a day, I think is more than fine. If it's less than that, then again, I'm not here to drive a bargain on how much I can use I can be in my pool for 24 hours a day. I can have 25 people in my pool. We're not doing that with the basketball. There will not, and I'm also willing to limit the number of people. Again, COVID 2020, I definitely overdid it. I felt like I was doing a good service. I have 25 letters from kids, from parents, all mentioning all this. Every single word in there is, I thought I was in person, by the way, so I was ready to show that, saying that it was in fact for free, that Cronin did this out of his goodness of his out of his heart. I mean, it's pretty, it actually makes me feel pretty good about what I was doing, trying to help out versus turning everyone away. And again, there was not one peep from anyone, any abutter whatsoever. And again, I'm more than willing. And again, the key word was free of charge, because there's all kinds of businesses out there. There's 15 businesses here and they charge by the hour. I've never put anything. I've never done that. I don't do that. I coach a team. I coach multiple teams. That's part of what I do. I'm basically semi-retired. I helped out a lot of people in 2020, and I'm more than willing to have X amount per week or X amount of hours. I just want my son at the end of the day to be able to enjoy his property.
Hey, Sarah, can I ask a question? We have people come before us a lot who want to build tennis courts or pools or sport courts. We never ever memorialize any restrictions on hours of use.
Yes, we have. We
have?
did over.
We talked about it. I don't know if
No,
they made a decision.
we did on Proctor, because the abutters had concerns, and we put in hours of use there.
Yeah, well, that was something like, make sure you're not playing tennis before 9 o'clock or something.
Well,
But
I was going to
like
say
3 hours a day and this and that. Now we're getting into really the weeds on this.
I was going to suggest 9 to 5. I think that the house next door is very close, and I would think they would want some type of calm when they're eating dinner. I would want that if this was next to my house. I wouldn't want to be sitting there here having basketballs pounding all the time if I was trying to relax at the end of the day.
Sure.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, there are just plenty of people with basketball nets in their driveways, or if you walk around the village, there's basketball nets in the streets. And, I mean, people can enjoy their homes and, use their space. But playing basketball at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night is a different story. But I'm concerned about being too restrictive. That's all.
Yep. No, I think that,
And this
part of
isn't a
the-
business, so I do not want 9 to 5. I mean, I'd much rather go later in the day. It's we're more afternoon people. The property sits very nicely in the shade in the afternoon. I'm really not out there at 9 o'clock in the morning anyway. So, I would rather go on an hour basis or go, not after 8 p.m., especially on a late summer hot night. I'm more than fine to stop then. But I think 9 to 5, this is not a little business downtown. This is just my house. And again, I can be in my pool till midnight and we can have high school parties here. That's not what we're doing. We have never had a complaint from the neighbor. We've never had a complaint from the police. We've never had a big party at our house. And we're just regular people here that are trying to enjoy our property in West Manchester.
Mr. Cronin, you say you can use your pool 24 hours a day. The fact of the matter is the pool was subject to a special permit. And if you abuse the use of it, then it can be restricted. So the reason that pools and sports courts come before the Zoning Board of Appeals is because they can be considered to be a nuisance to neighbors. And unfortunately, in 2020, you went over the edge and created issues. You expanded the court without permission, and so it puts you in a difficult position.
Yeah, but not with the pool. That was just an example. I was just making, literally, we haven't been out. Again, I did remove the lights. I felt like that was good faith. And more than happy to restrict the hours of a court. I mean, I think that's more than fair and something that's going to look better and sound better. I can go back to the original asphalt and kind of go back to do, honestly, whatever I want to do. That's not what we want to do. I would rather have it be nice. We want to play nice. I respect everyone. And again, I never heard anything about it before. So we've been nothing but good this year. There hasn't been any basketball. So we're trying to respect the neighbors. All I'm asking for is X amount of time to be able to use my court, and with a better surface that's safer, that's quieter, and that's environmentally better. To me, that seems, and again, also willing to limit the number of people. So we're, again, I don't want to get in the weeds either. But we haven't had loud music. We haven't had, again, big parties. The most people that were here at one time was 12.
All right, I have a question. It's
Yes.
James. Is the neighbor to the west present tonight so that he or she or they can express any concerns or objections or resolution suggestions they may have?
We will, yes, their attorney is here. I just wanted to get some input from the board first, but I will call on her.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts from the board?
Yeah, Sarah, this is Brian. Just like John, I don't think we should be restricting the hours per week, but rather take a look at what is on a daily basis. 20, 25 hours a week. That's, it gives him the opportunity whenever he wants to use those 20, 25 hours. So I think that just looking at that compromise, I mean, I will take a little bit of issue with the comment that in good faith he took the lights down. In fact, all he did was brought it back into compliance with the original terms of the original special permit. So my issue, like John's, is I'd rather see it just on a day in, day out kind of deal, as opposed to just trying to limit the hours per week. Because who's going to monitor that anyway? Just my thought.
Okay. Did you have any thoughts, Sean?
Sean or John?
Sean, sorry.
Yeah, do you hear me, Sarah?
Yep.
Yeah. Did you say no, Sean? No, nobody heard what you said. Do you have any thoughts?
Oh, I thought okay. I'm just kind of going with what you and Brian were both saying. I kind of agree with the hours. We don't want to just limit them to a specific time of the day.
Mr. Cronin, how long have you lived at that property?
This either 2010 or 2011. So we were there before the neighbors to the west.
And this has never been an issue with any of your neighbors?
No, it has not.
Okay, and then we can all agree that 2020 was an outlier, year of a summer year, where everybody's sort of losing their minds and trying to figure out, what to do and how to keep busy. So, with that said, I don't really understand the issue. So I've read through all the letters, of for and against, and bottom line, I'm okay with the application as presented.
I will call on Kathleen Heyer, who's the attorney for Mr. Bouvet.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Zoning Board.
Thank you.
Yes, as you know, I represent John and Rosanna Bouvet. They immediately abut Mr. Cronin's property. They're closest to the sport court. They're the most impacted. You've obviously read my letter. Unless you have questions, I'm not going to reiterate everything that I put forth in there. Just to respond to a few points that Mr. Cronin made. I mean, the reason my clients didn't object last year is because it was COVID, and they understood that it was important for kids to have some time outside, and they didn't feel that it would be neighborly to object, given the incredibly unique circumstances in which we found ourselves last year, which unfortunately we're still dealing with. That being said, it's not just the increased use that was primarily during 2020. The structure has been illegally expanded. It no longer meets the setbacks. So it's much closer to my client's property line than it was before. That's been done without building permits. And my clients have, unfortunately, given the past expansion and the installation of lights, my clients don't have a lot of faith at this point that if what Mr. Cronin has requested is approved, he won't simply seek to go further again, expand it, increase the use, do something else that increases the impact on my clients. I don't know if you in the town know my clients personally, but Mrs. Bouvet is undergoing treatment for a very aggressive form of cancer. So her peace and quiet, her enjoyment of her property is exceptionally important to her right now. And really what my clients are asking is that Mr. Cronin be held to what was approved before, to the requirements of the zoning bylaw that apply to this structure. My clients simply want to go back to what was previously approved, and they don't really understand, if it is only Mr. Cronin's son and a few friends, why that initial basketball court isn't sufficient to permit him to play within the setbacks and on the property as he wants to.
Thank you. It's my understanding that the application presented to us does not encroach into the setbacks, that it has been pulled back so it does not encroach. And it just seems to me that it's not the size of the court that matters, it's conditions attached to it that can give Mr. Bouvet the protections he wants.
Respectfully, Madam Chair, we'd like to see some sort of survey or plan indicating where the sports court is proposed to be. We haven't seen that. It doesn't appear that one was ever submitted with the 2012 application either. So given that the current court is 2 or 3 feet off the property line, my clients are very concerned about where the location is going to be when this is rebuilt.
Thank you. Mr. Cronin, you've submitted a depiction to us, but it's not an official survey. Do you have any type of official survey? That was supposed to have been submitted as part of the 2012 special permit, and I don't see that it ever was.
The 2012 one?
Yeah, the decision in the 2012 was was contingent on you submitting a survey, and I do not see that a survey was ever submitted.
I honestly don't remember that far back. I really don't. I believe it was submitted. I believe it was in fact done. And I don't have records. I'm not going to make anything up. I don't remember 2012. I honestly don't remember that whole process. So I don't have it in a file. I apologize for that.
Okay. Catherine Howe?
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
I've been having some technical difficulties, so I may have missed a few things, and I may be a little bit behind here. But
Okay.
I have been trying to keep up. And look, first, Mr. Cronin, I really appreciate your candor here. I appreciate your apologies. I appreciate your willingness to remove parts of the court. Those are not things we often hear from applicants. You seem to be really willing to compromise on portions of this and have said, you know, I overdid it or I was wrong a couple of times. And I have to say, personally, I appreciate that. You know, I also appreciate the concerns of the neighbors here. But, you know, I think that it would be completely reasonable. You know, we routinely grant permits that
We
say,
lost you,
you know, you
Catherine.
can't play tennis before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. And I don't really see how this is materially different. Sorry?
You're coming in and out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but we lost the sentence about when you're talking the hours.
Okay. Well. Oh, okay. All right. So what I was saying was that we routinely grant permits for tennis courts with times such as not to be played before 9 a.m. or after 8 p.m. And I don't see a material difference between a tennis court and a basketball court here. Same with the lights, although those appear to have already been removed. You know, we routinely say, you know, you can't have high lights. Well, he's agreed not to have high lights. I think Mr. Cronin's being pretty reasonable here, personally.
Thank you, Catherine.
Jim Dietrich, do you have thoughts?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. I'm looking at a drawing by, it's called a concept plan, and it's dated December 2012. Somehow it ended up in my file of this. It shows a court that sits just touching the setback, which is 15 feet from the property line. I'd like to ask the question, is that drawing correct? I can hold it up if you care to see what I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's the most recent one I've received that.
Right. Everything is within the setback is within the 15 feet from where the proposed court is.
Okay, well then I'd like to ask, why is the attorney for your neighbor saying it's a few feet from the property line? That seems to be a gross overstatement.
I think you should ask her.
Well,
Okay.
I'm asking her through the chairperson.
Right. Kathleen Heyer, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Cronin illegally expanded the original court such that he added pavement to bring it significantly closer to my client's property line. The original one, to our understanding, met the 15-foot setback. As currently constructed, it does not.
That's not the information we have. The enlarged court does not encroach into the setback. It goes to the 15-foot line
Correct.
As proposed or currently existing?
as proposed
And
and currently existing. He's expanding it towards his driveway, not towards the lot line.
Correct.
I understand that, Madam Chair. I'm sure you understand our concerns given what happened with the original application without seeing a stamp plan showing what exists and what's proposed. It's difficult for us to agree that it actually will meet the 15-foot setback.
I mean, I agree, Mr. Cronin, that a layout by a garden design firm is different from a survey. That there's nothing that tells us that these are really the lot lines without a survey.
Good point. So my second question would be, or my second statement, Madam Chair, would be for us to continue this and necessarily approve it, we need a certified plot plan signed and stamped by an engineering company showing precisely where this court will be located as proposed, not as existing, but where it will end up. That way we won't be arguing over where we think it is. The second thing I would like to make is I agree with most of the responses that we should not limit how many hours this court can be used per day, per week, etc. I think it is reasonable to put a limitation on how late people can be playing basketball on this court and when they can start playing basketball. That is a start time and an ending time. Mr. Cronin, I believe, has indicated that he would be agreeable to this sort of thing. It's not unrealistic, and as one of my colleagues pointed out, that this is commonplace with basketball, with tennis courts. So if we could establish some guidelines as to when basketball could be played on this particular court and where in fact it is actually located, I would be much more comfortable agreeing with this applicant. And thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Howe, your hand is still up. Do you wish to be heard again?
No, I don't know how to put it down.
Oh, if you go to the bottom, there's a little thing that says lower hand. So, Mr. Cronin, are you willing to continue this until you have a certified survey plot plan?
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes, I am. Yes. So I just to be clear, what you're asking for is a certified survey plot plan by an engineer,
Yes.
or just by a certified. I just want to get the correct wording. That's all.
By an engineer.
Okay.
And with the location of where the court's going to be.
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm also, to Jim's other point, I'm also willing to, on the hours, have a start time and an end time. I'm fine with that. So Jim had two points, I believe, right, Jim?
Thank you.
And is a start time of 9 a.m. and an end time of 8 p.m. acceptable?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Rosanna?
Yes, hi. I'd like to say a few words.
Excuse me, would you please identify your full name and your address?
Yes, Rosanna Bove, 153 Bridge Street.
Thank you.
I'm a Mr. Cronin's neighbor.
Okay.
I just want to know, what is the need to have this court enlarged from its original size in 2012? What is the need?
Mr. Cronin, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as kids get older, basketball is a full court game. So we're basically using within the setbacks. What I would like to use is to have more of a longer court versus than what was previously approved. So what we're looking at is the 2 baskets on the sides. My son can basically, and his friends can go up and down and play a basketball game, basically utilizing the court like a court. It's not a full court. It's not trying to get to be specific or trying to get it to be NBA-esque. It's still a small court that also my wife would like to use playing pickleball, which we've been playing, and there's been 0 complaints whatsoever. It's been maybe 15 hours this summer, maybe at the high end. And sometimes we enjoy that, having friends over and just playing a quiet game. So it fits within the confines of the sport court, of which the court itself, again, is much quieter than what it is on asphalt. So it's really just a slight expansion. It's not to, run games and have a league and all this stuff that some people have exaggerated and have made some assumptions that are just not true. It's just to have a little bit more room in that back corner of our property to utilize within the setbacks and really just play a game that I love and that my son loves, and a few of his friends. Again, he's got a pretty good chance to play in college, and I'd like to give him that opportunity to use my court.
And for 9 years, you have been using the court. And presently, there are 3 basketball hoops. And it's been expanded since the original approval of 2012. And now you're looking to expand it even more.
We're looking to expand it to what was to the numbers that were submitted.
Correct, but it's already been expanded.
It needs a special permit to be larger than the original one. Kathleen Heyer, do you have something else to say?
Yes, Madam Chair, I just, as you're discussing the possibility of imposing time limits on the use of the sports court, I would just note this is the first we've heard about the intent to use it as pickleball. Pickleball is quite loud, and in part it's loud because of the ball and the paddles that are used, not necessarily the ball itself bouncing on the ground. I would just ask the board to keep that in mind as they continue their discussions.
Thank you. So is the board willing to have this continued till we get the survey?
Yes.
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 Now, realistically, Mr. Cronin, surveys are not super easy to get. Is it more realistic to continue to January than to December?
I mean, at this point, I haven't been using it, and we're coming into the winter, so there's no rush on my end. There hasn't been.
Okay.
So January is more than fine. I will make a call tomorrow and get right on that piece that I missed. So I will take care of that tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Well,
Gail Hunter?
I only want to make certain that when the drawing that we've requested is submitted, the drawing will show the size of the proposed final product to be built and where it will be located relative to the setbacks and the property line.
How do I talk?
That is not unreasonable. We have that for any structures. That way, there should be no doubt about where this court will be and how large it will be, because it seems that that's been this principal bone of contention in this particular application. And I'd like to make sure that whatever we do going forward, it will be very clear as to how large the court will be, where it will be located, And I suspect Mr. Cronin, excuse me, will not have any objection to that because it's what he wants to have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Excuse me,
Gil,
could I say something? I don't mean to
Who-
interrupt. I'm just having trouble with my computer.
who is this?
This is John Beauvais, Rosanna's husband. I'm a neighbor, the abutting
Okay.
neighbor.
Okay.
I just would like to point out that we're not the only people in opposition. In addition to us, the people who bought Maroney's house are in opposition. They spent over $3 million for that house. They didn't buy it to have a basketball court right in front of their house with kids running back. And if you look on Facebook, it's very clear that Mr. Cronin was charging money. It's all right on Facebook. He was charging money for his courses. He's also told me that he was going to still run course clinics for hire, but just less. I just want to point that out. You know, I'm a very fair guy, and this has just gone out of control. He was permitted for one size. He illegally expanded it, and now he wants to double the size again. And it's just out of control. And we're not going to compromise on any of this. We had enough.
Thank you. I mean, we're continuing this until January, when we have more specific information and we can discuss the conditions we might impose at that point in time. Jim Dietrich?
Yes.
Thank you.
I was going to ask this question earlier, but I decided not to, but I changed my mind. Mr. Cronin, have you ever received compensation from anyone who has been invited to play basketball on your court? Monetary compensation.
Mr. Cronin?
No,
Did I hear you?
Look on
say-
Facebook, excuse me. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Please be quiet while we're asking the question. Mr. Cronin, would you please repeat your answer?
the answer is no.
Thank you. Madam Chairman,
Yes.
since this question has been raised and Mr. Cronin has addressed it, it would be reasonable to put in any decision that no compensation will ever be asked for or for anyone using this court to play basketball or pickleball or any other sport. That should put that to rest once and for all.
Okay, thank you.
I agree. Thank you. I'm more than happy to sign that.
Okay. Gail Hunter, are you on the line? Can you tell me the date of the January meeting?
Give me a second. I'm opening my calendar.
I think it's the
Begging
third
really.
Monday. I think it's the third Monday in January.
Third Monday,
That's the 18th, January 18th.
Wednesday, third Wednesday. Okay, January
the
18th.
19th,
Oh,
actually.
That's January 20th.
The 19th,
2022?
Oh, yes,
2022, the 19th.
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, I make a motion to continue the application of Mike Cronin for a special permit under sections 4.1.10F, 6.1.2, and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw, and or other relief as may be necessary for the renovation of an existing sports court with a proposed expansion to, I think it's 41 feet by 63 feet, and installation of new sports court surface tile at 151 Bridge Street, Assessor's Map, number 26, lot number 33 in District C, filed with the town clerk on July 15th, 2021, to be continued to July 19th, 2022 at 7 p.m. with the period to extend the writing of the decision to March 15th, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second,
Jim Dietrich seconds. I will take a roll call vote. Brian?
Yes, approved.
Jim?
approved.
John?
Approved.
James?
Approved.
Catherine? Need to unmute, Catherine.
Catherine's muted.
John?
Yes.
And Sarah says yes. Okay.
This is Catherine. I'm just trying to approve.
Okay, thank you. You're having a tough night, huh?
Yeah, not ideal.
We are now going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is to open a public hearing for the application of Adam and Cynthia Zager for a special permit under sections 6.1.2 and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw and or other relief as may be necessary to renovate the existing non-conforming barn structure to create family living quarters for an employee of the property owner who resides on the property at 21 Union Street, Assessor's Map number 45, lot number 12 in District G, filed with the town clerk on September 28, 2021. Mr. Zager, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Could you explain the project to us?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. At the outset, I'd like to point out we actually require a special permit under section 4.1.9.1, which is the specific provision that allows for a separate dwelling on a lot if it's going to be used for housing for an employee of an owner. So with that in mind, this project has been a long time coming. We had originally appeared before the Historic Board Commission a number of years ago and had them sign off on our plans. The structure is very old and very fragile. It has a second floor assembly that is failing and needs to be replaced as soon as we can. And we have been searching for the right solution, and we think we finally found it. From an engineering perspective, and are ready to move forward with the project. Over the last couple of years, we've run utilities, so that work is now done, and we're looking to move forward with the construction itself. We live at the home. We have two daughters, ages 4 and 15. We both are full-time working parents, and we need help. And we are looking to have an employee that's going to come and work for us in a household, potentially residential, and perhaps some business capacity. We are planning to do very little work to the exterior of this structure. The only exterior work is going to be the addition on one side of some exit stairs on a small deck. And on the other side, there'll be some skylights that'll be created on the roof line. Those have already been approved by the Historic Board. So there's going to be no change in the footprint of the building itself beyond the deck and stairs. It's all going to stay exactly in the same place. The windows will be substantially the same, as you can see on the plans. There'll be an internal layout. We're going to have some living space on the first floor. On the second floor, there's proposed to be a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen area. And we intend to do the work in full compliance with Historic. If we encounter any problems along the way, or we need to go back to make changes, we're going to address those with them. We're not going to be adding any exterior lighting beyond what's already at the property. And we think it meets all of the requirements for a special permit. The property, certainly the aesthetic is going to be in keeping with the area. It is going to have adequate access, adequate utilities. We don't see any issue with any of the criteria that would cause the board to feel that this is going to have an adverse effect on the neighborhood. We're already connected to water and sewer. There'll be no septic system. There's been a water and plumbing line that's already installed. We think it may actually have the effect of reducing traffic, because an additional car at our property that normally might leave at 5 or 6 o'clock will potentially stay overnight. We have adequate parking on the site. There's no environmental factors. So we really feel that this project is going to be a wonderful use of the property. It's going to be aesthetically pleasing, and we're going to save a structure that really has been a historic part of town. It's unclear to us how long it's been there, but we think it's been in existence for 100 years or more, and we'd like to see it stay. And it's going to look pretty much exactly as it looks today. So we're happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Thank you. Am I correct that it's right on the property line at the rear?
It is close to the property line. If you refer to the plot plan that we submitted, the back easterly, the southeasterly corner is just about on the property line.
Okay, yep. But there are no residences behind it? It's commercial?
There are no residences behind it, and I can certify to the board that I have reached out to Russ Brown, who's the attorney for the abutter, and Erica Brown. It's the Cricket offices that are right behind us, and they have, to my knowledge, and he's told me they have no objection to this application. I think it's a wonderful use of the property.
Any questions from the board? John?
I have no issues with it at all. I think it's a great way to repurpose the barn. It's a great, way to preserve it. So I'm okay with it. Thanks.
Brian?
No, I've got no question. I think to reiterate what John said, it's a great reuse of the property, maintain keep an eye on the property. I'm good with it.
Catherine?
Hello.
Hi.
I think this is great. I feel like my dad. I'm like watching the video, but I have the audio playing on my phone, and it's crazy. But anyway, this is great. I think this would be a great use of the property. No problems with it.
Okay. Jim? Or did Jim leave? He might have left.
Jim is still here and Jim has
Okay.
no problems.
Okay. Sean?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this application? Yes?
Sarah, it's James. I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Based on the site that we raised, I believe Jim Dietrich and I were there among several others. And the question was raised concerning the bathroom in the barn, which I believe there is a bathroom. Additionally, there was a question about a kitchen or something that looked like a kitchen on the submitted drawings. My question is this going to turn into an accessory dwelling unit, one that could be rented out in the future? And is that part of this application? And are there any applicable zoning bylaws that would restrict its use?
It will be restricted to use only by an employee residing on the property with the property owner also residing on the property. It cannot be rented out. It's not an ADU.
Is the issue of the kitchen or whether or not there is a kitchen an issue at all, or is that just a moot point?
Under family living quarters, and a kitchen would be appropriate.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on this? I'm going to be muting people. Everyone needs to mute. Okay, thank you. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this application? If so, please raise your hand on Zoom so I can identify you. Okay. Catherine, you've got problems. Oh. I'll make a motion. I move to approve the application of Adam and Cynthia Zager for a special permit under sections 4.1.9.1, 6.1.2, and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw, and other relief as may be necessary to renovate the existing non-conforming barn due to setbacks and create family living quarters to be occupied only by an employee employed on the premises of the owner occupant of the dwelling at 21 Union Street, Assessor's Map number 45, lot number 12 in the General District, filed with the town clerk on September 28th, 2021, based on a finding proposed alteration in use is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the bylaw, will not be more detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure, and all requirements and conditions under section 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw for the grant of a special permit have been met based on the condition that the renovations are constructed in accordance with the following site and building plans. Mortgage inspection plan prepared by Boston Survey, Inc., dated December 19th, 2013. Plans prepared by Brecker Design LLC. E 1.0 existing conditions Zager residence dated July 18th, 2016. A 1.0 proposed floor plan Zager barn dated July 14th, 2016, and A 2.0 proposed elevations dated 7/14/2016. Do I have a second?
This is Catherine. I second.
Okay. I will take a roll call vote. Catherine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Approve.
James,
Approved.
Brian,
Approved.
John, and Sarah approves. We have our 5 votes. Who would like to write this?
Can write it, Sarah.
John will write it? Who
I
will
can
review?
Karen, we'd be happy to submit a draft decision if that would assist the board.
Oh, that's fine.
I'll accept that.
Happy to take it off your plate.
I think then John should review it.
Right.
All residents write their decisions, not just the real estate attorneys.
Okay. So you're good to go. The next application is the application of 34 Tappan LLC.
We should keep it on though and help Todd. We should cut Todd.
I will.
Where are you going then?
You need to go on mute, whoever's talking.
I'm more important.
Listen now.
Sandy, you need to go on mute.
Oh.
Thank you. The next application is to open the public hearing on the application of 34 Tappan LLC, Todd Waller, manager, for a special permit under sections 6.1.2 and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw, and other relief as may be necessary for the renovations to an existing 2.5-story storage building to 4 residential units, and renovation of an existing 1.5-story garage or a 4-car garage at 34 Tappan Street, Assessors Map number 15, lot number 4 in District A, filed with the town clerk on September 29th, 2021. Now, before we get into a presentation and get into the merits of the project, it appears to me that these renovations would result in a change of use from a grandfathered, non-conforming moving and storage use to a multi-family use, which is not permitted in District A. And I would like the applicant to explain to us on what basis you feel the ZBA has the authority to approve a new non-conforming use.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Philip Blake. I'm an attorney in Ipswich, Massachusetts, 17 Hammett Street. And I'm here on behalf of 34 Tappan Street LLC and Todd Waller, the applicant. So your bylaw specifically provide for changes and alterations both to the use and to structures by way of special permit. So I think the short answer, and this is, consistent with many jurisdictions, that you allow for a change in the use as proposed here, with the zoning board considering it as a special permit application using the standards set forth in 7.5 of the bylaw. And that's why we're here with the special permit application.
But if the use is not allowed in in the District A, single family use, wouldn't that require a variance?
It would be just as if we were considering an application for a different commercial or industrial use. I don't think there's any difference under the law or under the bylaw on that point. We're actually making the use more consistent with what is allowed in this residential District A as compared to what's there now. And so that's, why we think we're hopefully able to get an approval to have a more appropriate use for the district.
Okay, thank you.
So I know the just to mention, in addition to Todd Waller, we have John Seeger and Dan Ricciarelli of Seeger Architects, who prepared the architectural plans for the project. Our plan is, I'm going to do a quick review, but then Todd Waller, who grew up in Manchester, is going to provide a little background on the property and the project. And before John Seeger and Dan Ricciarelli go through and kind of outline exactly what's going to change with the structure and what's not going to change. There's no increase in footprint or expansion of the structures. We're recycling the existing structure. And, as noted, to have residential units in the residential district. The zoning board was out to the site on October 23rd. So I think, whoever was there that day got to see both the location of the property relative to downtown, relative to the train station and railroad tracks, and also got to consider the current condition of these very old and fairly dilapidated existing commercial structures. So we're looking at this, I'm looking at this as something that's going to be a massive benefit, both in terms of creating housing stock, but just with the physical characteristics of the structures as they get improved. And hopefully people have had a chance to review the plan, but John and Dan will go through that. So I know you've got a lot on your agenda. I'm going to jump out. I'll be back, I suspect, at the end.
Thank you. So who's up next?
Hey folks, how are you, everyone?
Hi.
My name is Todd Waller. I own the property at 34 Tappan Street. Thank you, Madam Chair, and the board members for your time and effort to review this project. The challenges of nor'easters and Zoom seem to have overcome. I just want to say, kind of a brief couple of words. I know everybody's busy, but I hope that it comes across in this presentation tonight that we really care about Manchester and the neighborhood and its character, and that it's apparent that we've taken a lot of time and effort into this project to make sure that it fits for the neighborhood, for the town, and for everyone concerned. Not just because I grew up in Manchester, but I have friends who live and work in Manchester. My reputation, and really just kind of wanting to do what I believe is best for the town and the neighborhood relative to what the property is now. I live in Salem, but I still think of Manchester as where I'm from. I brought the property a few years ago. I knew the property from when it was Valentine Movers, prior to Burke Moving and Storage. And having been in the storage and moving business for 20 plus years, I really just couldn't pass up the opportunity to have a storage facility in downtown Manchester. Just doesn't come up very often. A little history about the building is that it was a granary, which is another word for a grain warehouse, from when it was built in 1900 to about 1950. Since then, it's been used continuously as a moving and storage warehouse facility. The business has been historically operated and is set up for, at least since 1950, a fairly robust moving and storage facility, because it's between the two buildings almost 12,000 square feet. So for a typical facility that size, you'd have 4 to 5 employees, 150 or so storage units, 6 to 8 medium commercial trucks and employee vehicles, and kind of full-time business operations, dumpsters, all that stuff. When I bought the property, I was made aware from discussions with the neighbors and the town that the property really should be more aligned with the underlying zoning rather than the commercial industrial use it is now. I've talked with the planning department about discussions that they've had with previous folks that have been interested in 40B developers for the site before I owned it, and kind of the planning board's vision underneath the master plan for a property such as this. We've had a lot of unsolicited outside interest from the property, everything from schools to clinics to larger moving and storage companies than what I am. I've had several community engagement and other meetings with residents, neighbors, stakeholders about the property. In direct response to that, we've reduced the number of units from 5 to 4 and made garage parking for all the units as a way to reduce the on-site parking to just 4 parking spots. I understand that Manchester has some challenges to the status quo on its plate from large developments. And I hope that, this is very much in contrast to this, that it's a really modest project, and I believe a hands down win for the neighborhood and the town itself. The site's been active, but for the property to be viable, I hope that it's clear it kind of something has to be done with it. It's a fairly large amount of square footage, and the property itself is constrained on a number of fronts. So hopefully, if people feel that the proposal is in a good direction, then it's kind of finished and set in its use, and not out there open to other possibilities. So anyways, all that is to say that I really hope that people look at this project for what it is, that it's a renovation, not new construction to the existing building, major improvements for the landscaping, the environment. It's quieter, it's lower intensity, fewer cars, less traffic, no commercial trucks permanently on site, a big environmental improvement, and much more attractive. So, and no basketball court. So, hopefully you see that it's a much better use for the property than the industrial use. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Mr. Seeger going to present?
Hi there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Actually, my partner Dan Ricciarelli is going to present, but I needed to know, do you have can I share the screen? Can we share the drawings while Dan's presenting? If you allow me to share, I can do it on my end, or?
I believe I just allowed you to share.
Okay, now.
I'm not very good at that, but I think I did it right.
John's good at sharing.
Did that work for you guys?
Not yet. There we go. Great.
Do you want me to go to full screen, Dan, or is this fine?
This
size?
is adequate. This is great. Good evening, folks. Dan Ricciarelli with Seeger Architects, 83 North Street in Salem, Mass. And that is a new address for us. We moved last week. So if it looks different on your application, we just moved. So we're here to talk about 34 Tappan Street. And the top picture you see is a picture of the building in its current state. It's important. You can see the carriage house on the right, and you can see that it's completely devoid of plantings and landscaping. And it really is a sea of paving in the front. Below that is a proposed rendering of the building and the current carriage house to the right. And you'll see that as we'll get further on in the presentation, I'll go to the landscape plan, but there's a market improvement as far as introducing landscaping, softer materials for more permeable surfaces. And just as an aside, we have met with the Conservation Commission and received an RDA for the project, given the minimal impact that we are doing to the site itself. So, John, would you like to advance one slide? This is a slide from the GIS maps in Manchester, and you can see that there's actually 4 buildings shown on the site, but there's really only 2. The bottom left building is not there, and the main building at the top, it looks bifurcated, but it's not. It may have been an addition, or it may have been 2 separate buildings years ago, but it is now 1 building. But it also clued us into one of the moves that we made in the building, which we'll show you in a few minutes, and the carriage house off to the right. Okay, next slide. This is a view across the street. It's a fenced yard. You can see that the apron for the property is the whole street and the whole width of the property. And one of the moves that we are doing is we're trying to neck that down to create an easier and better access for vehicles entering and exiting the site, and adding some site stone walls and some other amenities. We'll show that in a few minutes. The slides to the bottom left is the railroad tracks looking towards the train station, a view in the middle looking towards the west, and a view to the east behind the building. Next slide. Again, this is just another picture at the top of the current building. Can you shut that down, John? Thank you. And at the rear of the building, there are a set of tracks. This is where the commuter rail comes into Manchester and exits Manchester. Our building is right on those tracks, and there is an old spur which used to serve the building, which will be abandoned. I think the board toured the back of the building on the 23rd. And you can see the condition of the building just in these photographs. It's very tired. As far as the structure itself is in beautiful shape. It's an old post and beam structure, which we will be maintaining. And as John and Todd said, the exterior of the building won't change outwardly at all, except for in a massing sense. We're not adding any additions. We are in fact carving into it with decks and a walkthrough for entries into the units, which I'll show you. Next slide, John. A couple more pictures here. This is actually looking west up Tappan Street. You can see the activity and the move. It's a move currently in moving and storage company, so there's a lot of vehicle traffic and comings and goings. There's a view on the right of the carriage house. We were originally proposed to put a unit in there, but that was removed, and that will now become just a 4-bay garage for vehicles for the tenant use. And we also have 4 vehicles we're proposing on site, and we'll show you that in a second. Come a close-up shot on the left of the loading door, and just the condition of the siding and the foundation as it stands today. Next slide, John. This is a certified plot plan just showing the existing conditions of the site. You see the limits of the paving. It pretty much encompasses the whole front of the building. So we were removing all that paving and putting back cobbles and pea stone to make it more permeable. And this was really a good point for the Conservation Commission. They supported that wholly. The city is in the middle of revamping a lot of the drainage systems. You see that drain line cutting across, that will now be rerouted, and that work is being slated ongoing currently. Next slide, John. This is the proposed plan, certified plot plan. You can see the introduction of the 4 parking spaces in the front with some cobble drive for access and cobble for access into the carriage house. Again, all permeable pavers, so we are improving the runoff on site and the groundwater recharge. A lot of the grass area will remain the same. It'll be used for patios and ground-based yards for the tenants. Next. And here we have, as we talked about, we have 4 units. On the right-hand side of the main building, there are 2 townhomes, and those will be units 1 and 2. In the middle of the building, similar to what you saw in the GIS, we're not cutting the building into 2 buildings. We're actually just doing a cut through. So people will access their units from that. So we're actually carving into the building for people to access their units. Similarly, we're doing that with their decks. And on the left is units 3 and 4, and those are flats. There's a very tall space, clear span, almost clear span with just a single row of columns in the middle of post and beam construction where the storage facility is, and that will be 2 flat units, and we'll be exposing all that structure and adding and introducing some very large industrial style windows to bring in the industrial aesthetic for the building. And down to the bottom left, you can see the 4 vehicle parking in pea stone, and there is ample landscaping in front with stone walls, and we're necking down that entrance to the site to better control traffic, so traffic's just not bleeding out onto Tappan Street. And each of the units, as you can see, has a lawn. There is a fence going around the perimeter, cut down some of the train noise, and also provide privacy. And yard space for the residents. And the carriage house, you can see there's an apron in front of pea stone, and again, 4-car parking. Next slide, John. And we'll just quickly run through the plans again. This is, you can see at the center, down the bottom plan, you can see the center core and people enter their units, and it goes straight through to the building. It is livable floor space up above on the 2nd floor. So again, 2 townhomes to the right and 2 flats to the left. Next, John. And just some elevations of what we're proposing. The building is currently now has very small double hung windows, so we're planning on opening those up because they're very large spaces. And we want to make sure that the light gets deep into the space and it provides ample natural light and ventilation for the units. I think it would be very dramatic. We'll be introducing some roof decks for some of the units, for the common area, just to give them more open space. And you can see over to the left on the top picture, there are decks that were being carved in for each of the units, so we are not projecting any further than the existing footprint. The bottom right is again just an end elevation. And John, the next slide. And this is the top left is the rear elevation. You can see the cut through to the building, and in the center there is a 3-story volume, which we're still working with, either combining it to one of the units or making it a common space for all the units to use. And again, introducing larger windows. And the bottom right is again the end elevation facing over towards the train station. The building is clad currently now. We think it's asbestos shingles. Obviously, those will be abated and removed, and we're going back with a traditional materials treated more contemporarily. This is not a very traditional building in the sense of what people are used to seeing, so we're not going to treat it as such, but we will treat it with traditional materials and claddings and trim. Next, John. Just a front view of the carriage house. You can see that each of the units will have 1 space, or we may give 1 unit 2 spaces in the garage, so there'll be 4 cars undercover, and again 4 cars on site. We're only required to have 6 vehicles, but we have 8 on site. And this will be clad similarly to the main building. Next, John. And just some other perspective images, again from Tappan Street, showing the stone walls in front, the trees, and all the landscaping we are proposing. We're working with landscape architect Michael D'Angelo out of Boston. Does a great job. So you see here is a radical change to the site. And then another view looking more northeast on the bottom right. Next. A view is just standing inside this on the court, looking towards the carriage house. Again, you can see the large glass windows to the left in the new building. and more contemporary aesthetic detailing with cable rail and steel, keeping with the industrial aesthetic of the building. Next, John. And just some images of the landscaping. These aren't exactly what is being proposed, but they just give you a sense of what we are proposing, which is a stone wall on the top left, and some entry paving ideas with the peat stone and cobbles combined. Bottom left is just an axle pattern of the granite that we're proposing for the stone walls in front. And for the walkways and pathways, more like a boardwalk experience, we're providing wood, e-bay decking for the walkways from each of the units. Solid board with neighbor fence going around the property, again, for privacy and to deflect some of the noise from the train. Next, John. And just some more images of some of the plantings we'll be providing, indigenous species. And I'm not a landscape architect and I won't go there. So, but I think these tell a good story. Next, John.
That's
I
the
think
end
that
of
may
it.
be it. So
bring
I
your-
think at this time I'll hand it back to Philip and we'll entertain any questions you may have.
Does the board have any questions before I kind of recap things?
Brian, do you have any questions regarding the,
No, actually, I think it's a great repurposing of the site. I think it's visually appealing. And no, I'm all set. Thank you.
okay. John?
Yeah, I always thought that property was such an eyesore in that area, and so I'm glad that it's finally being addressed. And I thought the presentation was great. I thought the renderings looked really nice, and a little something a little different than what we're used to seeing in town. I like the idea of the mixed materials and the hardscaping and the cobblestone. So I don't have any specific questions on the details. So overall, good job.
Catherine?
So my question would go to Sarah or to the attorney on this, which is with respect to the change of use, and this may be a poor comparison or might not. My memory may be failing me, but did this same issue not come up with the old Corner Inn, which I know we never reached a decision on, but I remember discussing the fact that it was in a single family district and it was a old use of an inn, and we were potentially going to allow condos to go in there. Is this different, or is it the same issue that we have with respect to this current application?
It may be slightly different, but I'm going to ask Attorney Vider, I probably botched the name, to speak to that. We received a letter from him on November 16th regarding the change in use.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening to the members of the board. My name is Peter Viteri. I'm an attorney with Mackey Shea Durning in Boston. I'm representing a group of neighbors on C Street, the Burks, the Surdams, the Jays, and the Laphams. We did file a comment letter yesterday raising some of the issues about authority that you led off in questioning with. And I won't summarize it in too much detail. My letter contains a little bit of the details there, but in some there is basically, the structure is a non-conforming use and it's also a non-conforming structure. And as it currently stands, it is grandfathered for both. And the issue that we find, and I think that really causes a problem for this project, is that if you change the use, which is what is proposed, you lose that grandfathering status, and the change of use to what is proposed, it being not a permitted use or an allowed use in the zone, not even by special permit, not allowed by right, not allowed by special permit. The zoning board doesn't have authority to allow that under the bylaw and under the state zoning act. So the concern I think you raised at the beginning is is extremely valid. I think it's something that the board should consider closely. I know Mr. Blake, or Attorney Blake, mentioned that, and I think Mr. Wall, the applicant, I think also mentioned that, the intent is to change the use to one that's more in line with the neighborhood. I mean, it is a residential use and not a commercial storage use, but it's certainly not in line with the neighborhood. It's not allowed by right in the zone. All the neighborhood houses around it are single-family uses. This is a 4-family residential use. So I would just point out that I don't think that's quite accurate to say that it's more aligned with the uses in the neighborhood. Again, I refer to my comment letter for more of the details, but I think there are legitimate concerns about the board's authority to approve this project.
Thank you. Let me go to other members of the board. James Mitchell, do you have questions?
I agree that it's a different use, but I would also take exception to the fact that it's not in line with the character of the neighborhood. It may be a 4-family, but it's still residential. And we're going from an industrial eyesore to really what I view as a spectacular repurposing of a building. And I can't see any downside here with respect to what is existing and what is proposed. I can't speak to the legality of our decision making, but I think this, as proposed, looks like a very nice repurposing of this property.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is that we need to look at is that the authority we have is given to us under the bylaws, and under the bylaws, Zone A does not allow a multifamily house. So the question is do we have the authority over that? And I don't have the answer tonight because we just received the letter yesterday.
Yeah, this is Catherine Howe, and I just want to clarify. I think this is a great project. I love it, and I would love to see this property in town. I'm just a little concerned over whether we actually have the legal authority to grant this project. I'd love to approve it. I think it's great. I think I agree, in my opinion, to be in conformity with the neighborhood. I think it would improve the neighborhood. I think it's fantastic. I just feel that we as a board may be constrained by the bylaws here.
Thank you, Catherine. Adam Zager, do you wish to be recognized?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd just like to chime in with a couple things. First of all, I do not represent Mr. Waller here. I am an attorney, but I'm appearing in my capacity as a resident of the downtown area. I've had a chance to tour the property and see what Mr. Waller is going to do to it, and it is one of the best reuses and most appropriate reuses that I've seen in quite a long time. It's really going to take a structure that's dilapidated and bring it to something that's far more in line with what the neighborhood, not just would like, but needs. This type of housing is desperately needed in town, and I think it's going to be a great addition. And legally, I would like to speak to the board's authority because I think it frustrates me when neighbors, oppose a project on bases like this. They did not raise one objection to the factors that actually applied to the special permit: the adequacy of the site, the suitability of the site for the use, traffic flow, safety. Frankly, because I think every single one of those factors weighs in favor of this project. And most importantly, this is squarely something that the board has authority to do. There is substantial case law in Massachusetts that states that a board has the authority to use a special permit to grant a change in pre-existing non-conforming use. You may be concerned that the code does not allow multifamily, but the code also has other provisions. And one of those provisions is the provision that we requested and referred to earlier tonight. 6.1.2 of the bylaw actually gives the board express authority to grant a change in a pre-existing non-conforming use by special permit, and that's been reaffirmed by the courts on a number of occasions, I believe. And I think Mr. Waller's attorney can speak to that, but I don't see that as being an issue, and I think it's telling that nobody's made any real objection to what this project is going to do. because the fact of the matter is it's going to be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reagan. Mr. Jermaine?
Thank you. I'm not an attorney, so I don't get involved in any of that. But I do know, I do have a perspective. I'm Paul Germain. I live at 30 Tappan Street, which is I'm the direct abutter to the property. And I think it's great that, a lot of people on the board here are very supportive of the project. However, there was a letter, I believe, sent a month or two ago, signed by, I'd probably say 95% of the residents on C and Tappan Street that voiced their non-support for the proposal. So the people that actually live here are interested, along with myself, in following the historical zoning of single-family residents. So I think that's an important point. Again, from an outsider's perspective, it may look great, but from the people that actually live there, there's a different perspective, and you guys have that record, that letter in your files. I wanted to just talk briefly about a couple things. One is my personal perspective is I think that to go around the single-family zoning will cause a reduction in the quality of life here in the neighborhood and privacy for me. One of the items I wanted to bring to your attention was a bit of a disconnect between the measurements, the property lines outlined in the package, and the most recent surveys recorded. For example, my letter that I sent I delivered over the past day or two. There's a property line that's 94 feet and it's been established that way for about 100 years. And in the materials we've been given, it's called out as 92 feet. I'm a bit concerned about inaccuracies like that. The property line has been recorded in the survey from last October. It's been recorded in the deed. It's been recorded in the deed for 34 Tappan Street. It's been confirmed by a separate title research examiner. It's used by the Manchester cartographers and tax assessor's office. So I'm a bit concerned, regardless of how this goes, that it's worth taking a second look at those measurements, which right now, the measurements in the proposal do not line up with the measurements on record, according to the last official recorded survey. And it's really in the best interest of Mr. Waller and myself to get clear on that, because we both want clear title. So I think that's an important point to consider before moving forward. In terms of some of the other things that struck me when I looked at the proposal itself, I felt a little, I guess, shocked, because I live right next to the property, but most of the pictures or the depictions you don't see. I mean, admittedly, my place is very small. It's just a cottage, but it is my home where I live. And if you look at the package, it really kind of overlooks that there's any adjacent property, which is, again, where I live. So I guess I want to alert the board to one, that a lot of people in this neighborhood, the majority of these people in this neighborhood, do not support a multi-family, multi-residential unit, but prefer single-family housing, and that the plans and the numbers don't connect to the numbers that are currently filed with the Salem Registry of Deeds. And finally, from a privacy perspective, again, the drawing makes things look very expansive, but if you put a deck, for example, you put a deck in the corner of the building, that directly overlooks my backyard. So just imagine if someone put a deck over your backyard, how you feel about the loss of privacy that came from that. So those are, I don't want to, other people have important points, but I just wanted to bring those up and share them.
Thank you, Mr. Jermaine. Mr. Waller, are you aware of the discrepancy with respect to the surveys?
To my knowledge, there's no discrepancy. We have a current registered plot plan that goes by our title. I think Mr. Germain has an issue with the town and their registered plot plan, which they have done for the work that's going to require an easement over his property. So from my perspective, with all due respect, there is no discrepancy from what I can see. We had a registered land surveyor going off of plans that go back 100 years or more, and that's what it is.
Did they look at the ones for the property next door that were on the registry of deeds?
I think there was a discussion between them and the not the town engineer, but the contractor that was hired for the town to do the site work for the pipe that's going to be running through. So in that regard, yes.
Okay.
Sarah, if I recall correctly, didn't we vote to allow Mr. Jermaine's properties next door to be split into 2 parcels about a year ago or so? So
we did, and there was a survey done that time.
So maybe I'm saying these discrepancies are a result of maybe those resurveys. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
I don't know. I just would think if there's a discrepancy between 2 surveys, that the 2 surveyors would converse and figure out what's right. That's my opinion.
Yeah, just on that topic, wasn't aware of this question before tonight, but ultimately, as you indicated, to private property matter to be sorted out, as you indicated, typically by the surveyors, if there's any, in fact, discrepancy. Inevitably, old surveys, and a lot of these properties do have very old surveys, if they have surveys at all. There are minor modifications in the distances as more accurate, current survey gear is brought to bear. So, when you're talking about a couple feet or a couple of inches, it's not locked in stone as a 1900 or 1950, but ultimately it's not for a public board to have to sort of sort that type of matter out.
Thank you. So I guess I have a concern that it's not clear in my mind whether the board has the authority to allow a change of use to a multifamily use in Zone A. So I'm reluctant to approve this project unless we have some more time in order to delve into that issue. So I'm wondering if you are willing to continue this application.
Yeah, no, we want the board to be comfortable. I think as you are considering that, I'm going to point you to 2 kind of resources. And a lot of times we've got to look to secondary sources, case law decisions, interpreting language because it's vague or uncertain. As we've heard, there are lots of case law decisions authorizing special permits for multifamily housing and for these kind of variances. We, just as a point of logic, if this was a conforming use, we wouldn't be, or a conforming structure, we wouldn't be here in front of the zoning board as, same as with every applicant who's in front of the zoning board. So I'm gonna refer you to section 9 under our section chapter 40A, which is our zoning enabling act for the state. And I'll just read one paragraph from that kind of captures the something kind of more expansive, just to give you some comfort as to what you're doing fits in within the authority. And it says zoning ordinances or bylaws may provide that special permits may be granted for multifamily residential use in non-residentially zoned areas where the public good would be served, and after a finding by the special permit granting authority that such non-residentially zoned area would not be adversely affected by such residential use, and that permitted use in such a zone are not noxious to a multifamily use. So what we're considering is something well within that. It's a proposed multifamily within a residential district. And then I'd like to go back to the bylaw which, and I gotta pop around here, so bear with me 1 second. So this is just looking at 6.1.2. Again, we're dealing with a non-conforming use. This is the special provisions section of your bylaw, talking about changes, extension, and alterations to non-conforming uses. And it reads that a non-conforming structure or use may be changed, extended, or altered, provided that in each case the Board of Appeals grants a special permit, therefore, after finding that such a change, extension, or alteration is not substantially more detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure or use. I think that, again, we don't need to look elsewhere. Happy to do so because we want the board to be comfortable, but your bylaw very, very squarely provides this board the authority to change an existing non-conforming use to another non-conforming use. That's the section that multiple applications are in front of the board just tonight under, and that is what we're here under. So I think the board should get comfortable with its authority on this, and ultimately, we can get back to sort of hopefully the merits of the project.
So are you willing to continue to our next meeting on December 15th?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen Mr. Vitteri's letter. Happy to take a look at that. And you're saying December 16th?
15th.
December 15th.
It's a Wednesday. Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Vitteri's letter cites case law and takes the opposite position that you're taking. So
no surprise. Yeah.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
If I'll be quick, but I just want to address, just follow up on 3 quick topics that were brought up. Again, I don't want to get too into the weeds on the legal aspects. I'll refer to my letter for that, and I'd be happy to send to Attorney Blake if he's interested in reading it. But as to section 6.1.2, there is a land court case that says basically the issue with that provision is that it's silent on whether or not the changed use needs to comply with the bylaw. And in that situation, you then default to the zoning act, and the use must then comply with the current zoning in order to be allowed. And under that analysis, this leads into my second point. There's no need to review the substantial detriment factors that are in 7.5.2 or of the special permit section. If you don't even get to that second part, that's the second part of the inquiry. If you don't even get past the first part where it complies with zoning, you don't even make that determination. And then I'll just finally say that the variance issue, I don't think is available to change the use, because the issue is not anything to do with the soil topography or any of the factors that are enumerated in the variance statute or the variance section of the bylaw that would allow for a variance. So I think that the board should take a very close look at its authority. I encourage the board to consult with town council, but again, I think that there is an issue about whether or not the bylaws do constrain the potential approval of this project.
Thank you. With that, I will make a motion to continue the application of 34 Tappan LLC, Todd Waller, manager, to a special permit under section 6.1.2, 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw, and other relief as may be necessary for the renovation to an existing 2.5-story storage building to 4 residential units, and renovation of an existing 1.5-story garage for a 4-car garage at 34 Tappan Street, Assessors Map number 15, lot number 4 in District A, filed with the town clerk on September 29th, 2021, continuing to December 15, 2021 at 7 o'clock with an extension to the date for completing the decision to February 28, 2022. Do I have a second?
A second.
Sean seconds. I'll take a roll call vote. James?
Approved.
Sean?
Approved.
Jim? Brian?
Approved.
John? That was a yes, John?
Yes.
Catherine?
Approved.
And Sarah says yes. So we will continue this application until December.
Good night, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll now open the public hearing for the application of Kelly Carpa for a special permit under section 6.1.2 and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw, and other relief as may be necessary for removal and reconstruction of the existing garage and sunroom with added living space above, added farmer's porch, rear yard terrace, outdoor shower, and fence enclosure at 28 Forster Road, Assessor's Map 29, Lot number 7 in District A, filed with the town clerk on October 21st, 2021. And would like you to explain the project, would also like an explanation of the basis upon which the non-conforming structure is grandfathered. Who is going to speak to this application?
Madam Chair, my name is Art Dioli with Olson Lewis Architects.
Thank you.
In Manchester, and I'm representing Kelly Carpa on this project. So from our site walk last Saturday, the question was raised that whether this property was grandfathered or whether it was a special permit or a variance. We since went to the town hall. I found a card for the building permit that was issued 7/20/1971. And then in addition, I talked to Paul Orlando regarding the grandfathering aspect of the property and the existing structure. And he told us that if there were taxes paid for the past 10 years, then he would consider this property as grandfathered and would require a special permit to do the work. And so I went to the town and received a document showing the taxes had been paid for the last 10 years on the property.
Thank you.
You're welcome. To give you a brief description of what we're proposing, there's an existing structure with a one-story garage with a family room above. Our intent is, and also there's a sun room on the rear side of this structure. Our intent is to remove the sunroom and then expand the existing garage by maintaining the foundation, but removing the family room so that we can align the floor levels to the existing floor. Our proposal is to add 11 feet to the front of the structure, and that all of that 11 feet is outside the 20-foot setback. So we should be able to do that as of right. The problem is the property line angles, and as we proceed to the rear of the structure, we have presently a setback of 6.9 feet where the sunroom is. We're going to reduce the depth of the sunroom by about 4.5 feet, which will give us a setback from the property line of 8.5 feet. In addition, the proposal includes the addition of a farmer's porch to the front of the house, and a shower, outdoor shower that we've since moved from the left side of the house to the right side, because we're also having to go in front of the Conservation Commission, and we're trying to remove as much of the work in the no build area as possible. I think that pretty much covers, unless there's any other questions regarding the addition.
So will you be providing us with a new drawing reflecting those pieces
Yes.
you're moving? Okay.
Yes, yep. I mean, I can, if you'd like, I can share it and show you visually what it looks like now.
No, I think if we just
Okay.
receive a copy, we just need to have a copy to include with a decision that's accurate.
Yes, we use this same drawing to apply for the Conservation Commission, and so we'll send that over to you.
Members of the board, questions? Sean, do you have any questions?
No.
Brian?
No, nothing at this point.
John?
Nope.
Catherine? Catherine? Did I lose it?
I think you did.
No, she says she's
This
muted.
is Catherine.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Eureka. All right. I don't have any questions at this time.
thank you. Jim Dietrich? You're muted. Jim, you're muted.
Where in the zoning regulations is the documentation that supports Mr. Orlando's decision that this is all grandfathered?
There is, I think we ran into it when we were doing Boardman Ave, that there is case law and there is support for the fact that if a structure has been built pursuant to a building permit, that after a period of time, it's automatically grandfathered. I wasn't aware it was 10 years. I thought it was 20, but in either case, this property would meet that. And I think the purpose behind that is to not penalize homeowners who've acted in good faith under a building permit when the building department didn't do a good job on the final, on the, final review. So that's where it comes from.
Thank you. No further questions.
Clifford Hughes, you have your hand raised. You need to unmute.
There we
There.
go. Yes, I'm the abutter on 42 Forster Road. And my question would be, when the building permit was issued, was there a site plan that went along with that back when it was originally issued? And I believe that there's also a building permit that was used to renovate on April 29th, 1997, that might have also lent some criteria to the site delineations.
It's my understanding that the building permit from 1997 was with respect to a kitchen remodel. So it was internal to the building. And I believe that the original building permit was for the structure that stands today.
That's the same information that I had too, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And is it consistent to have construction on non-conforming building setback that is that consistent with bylaws?
No, I mean, the challenge we have is that things are built and they're not in accordance with what they should be. And then the building inspector does a final sign off on the property and doesn't force any action. When my house was built, the foundation was skewed 4 feet and they had to obtain a variance.
Mhm.
Different building inspector, you know, so, and we're seeing more of these where subdivisions were built
Yeah.
and the final placement of the houses was not as it should have been, primarily due to ledge,
Uh-huh.
I think. But
Well, one of the things that I've talked to Kelly and Art both. Actually, Art was my architect for the house that I live in. So, and I think the design of the reconstruction that they're proposing is quite nice. And what I have talked to Kelly and Art about is actually exchanging land from my parcel so that their building would be a conforming use. And I'd throw that out there as something that I would entertain for sure, for certain.
okay, thank you. Any more questions from the board? Any other member of the public who would like to be heard on this application? I will make a motion. I move to approve the application of Kelly Carper for a special permit under sections 6.1.2 and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw and or other relief as may be necessary to raise and reconstruct the existing garage and sunroom on a non-conforming structure to side setback, adding second floor living space, a conforming farmer's porch, rear yard terrace, and outdoor shower at 28 Forster Road, Assessors Map number 29, lot number 7 in District A, filed with the town clerk on October 21st, 2021, based on a finding the proposed alteration is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the bylaw, will not be more detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure, and all requirements and conditions under section 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw for the grant of a special permit have been met, based on the condition that the reconstruction and additions are constructed in accordance with the following site and building plans. C 1.1 existing site plan prepared by Hancock Associates dated September 17th, 2021. Plans prepared by Olson Lewis Plus Architects dated October 21st, 2021. EX 1.1 existing basement floor plan, EX 1.2 existing first floor plan, EX 1.3 existing second floor plan, EX 2.1 and EX 2.2 existing exterior elevations, a 1.0 architectural site plan, and I believe that's the plan, Mr. Dioli, that you will be providing a revision.
We will provide the Hancock engineering.
Okay.
And we can modify our drawings as well to incorporate the changes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, one comment.
Yeah.
It's actually Capra. It's C-A-P-R-A.
Oh, thank you.
All right, you're very welcome.
Sorry about that. And the additional plans of A 1.1 basement floor plan, A 1.2 first floor plan, A 1.3 second floor plan, A 2.0 and A 2.1 exterior elevations. Do I have a second?
Second, Brian.
Brian seconds. I will take a roll call vote. Brian,
Yes.
James,
Approved.
John,
Proof.
Catherine,
Approved.
Sean,
Approved.
Jim.
Approved.
Who would like to write it?
I can write it.
Brian will write it. Who would like to review it?
I can review it.
John will review it. Okay,
Don't go
thank you.
blind leading the blind.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Sorry about your name.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay, I now will lost my papers. Sorry about that, folks. I mislaid a paper. Very important paper. Jesus Christ. Well, okay, I'll do without it. I now will there it is. I now will open the public hearing for the application of Brian Stein on behalf of Marianne Mukill, and I'm sure I've butchered that name, for a special permit under sections 6.1.2 and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw, and other relief as may be necessary to construct a new screen porch on an existing non-conforming deck footprint, which encroaches into the side setback located on a non-conforming lot at 44 Harbor Street, Assessors Map 22, lot number 13 in District E, filed with the town clerk on October 27th, 2021. Is Brian Stein here to present this application?
I am.
Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could I share my screen?
Yeah, let me just open it up for you. Okay, you should be able to do it.
All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So I'm Brian Stein from BDS Design, representing Marianthe Mukel at 44 Harbor Street. We have a house from about 1730, an old gambrel house on a non-conforming undersized lot. The existing portion of the existing house in the along the MBTA line is non-conforming per the setback. The setback is 20 feet on that side, and we have 9.5 feet to the existing deck and about 13 feet to the existing house corner. We are seeking to construct a new deck of the same size with a screen porch on it. We are doing other work as well that I explained at the site visit, which I'll run through in a second, that meets the setbacks and height and all the other requirements of the bylaw. We, given the house is under the jurisdiction of Historic New England, we had to go before them, and we received permission to, for this design, and they've approved all of that. So this is our last hurdle here. So real quick, I'll just walk you through. Existing is on the left and proposed is on the right. The existing deck, as you see, and the screen porch are the same size as existing. We are removing kind of a narrow addition that was built many years ago and adding a mudroom, entry, and eating area kind of in the corner of from the old house. Second floor gets an addition as well. That's essentially a master bathroom out over that existing first floor. The front, there's no change. The existing south elevation on the MBTA line, you can see the addition of a cross gambrel and the screen porch that is a flat roof. And then from the rear, you see the screen porch here, again on the existing deck footprint, the cross gambrel up the top, and then a shed roof on the side over the dining and entry. And then this is from the driveway, north side, again, cross gambrel and the screen porch. This is just, for those that weren't at the site visit, this is a shot of the rear of the house now with the deck mostly behind this large shrub. But this is where we're talking about here. the height of the flat roof at the screen porch is a little over 9 feet off of the deck. There's a reasonable amount of screening kind of on the left side here in this picture. But the neighbor across the MBTA line can see it through their yard from what I could tell driving down the road, but it's mostly not overly visible other than driving down the street and the MBTA line. So we don't feel this is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. It will, improve the look of the house. We obviously have some roof issues, some leaks and so forth that we're trying to take care of as well. So the whole renovation will overall improve the home for her and for the overall neighborhood. I entertain any questions that you may have.
I'm going to shut down your screen so I can see people. Brian, do you have any questions? Are you awake, Brian? Sean,
Now that we have two Brians, you might be confused here.
Sean, do you have any questions?
Yeah, what the heck's going on with Brian?
It's late.
Do you have any questions?
No,
Sean?
I don't.
Okay. Jim Dietrich?
No questions, thank you.
John?
No, thank you.
James?
I don't have any questions. It looks like a very nice design solution.
Brian Solacey, are you with us again?
I'm sorry, yes, zoned out here. Yeah, I'm good. I think everything was addressed at the site visit, and I have no problems at all.
Okay. Catherine?
No, I think, I mean, I have, a slight concern with the increased nonconformity in the, am I reading that right, in the setback?
No, the setback remains the same at 9.5 feet. The deck size isn't increasing. The only thing we're doing is adding the screen porch on top of the existing deck footprint.
The other portions of the addition, the other pieces being added do not encroach into the setback. It's only the deck.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah. Then I have no concerns.
Okay. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this application? If so, please raise your hand on Zoom so I can find you. Okay, I will make a motion. I move to approve the application of Brian Stein of BDS Design Inc. on behalf of Marion Mukill for a special permit under section 6.1.2 and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw and other relief as may be necessary to raise the existing one-story back addition, second floor rear addition, and existing deck on a non-conforming structure due to side setback on a non-conforming lot and construct a new addition consisting of second floor conforming space over the existing structure, a one-story conforming addition, and a new screen porch built on the footprint of the existing non-conforming deck at 44 Harbor Street, Assessor's Map number 22, lot number 13 in District E, filed with the town clerk on October 27, 2021, based on a finding the proposed alteration is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the bylaw, will not be more detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure, and all requirements and conditions under section 7.5.2, the zoning bylaw for the grant of a special permit have been met, based on the condition that the addition and porch are constructed in accordance with the following site and building plans. Plan of land prepared by Giroux Land Surveying dated October 26, 2021.
Circulation.
Plans prepared by BDS Design dated 10/26. Somebody needs to go on mute.
Traffic to there.
Somebody needs to go on mute,
But
please.
so the long and short of it is we have a couple options to solve that issue. I'll just mention the third one, which is something that was
It looks like Brian.
last time we met, which was to a two-way
Brian Solacey, can you go on mute?
roadway.
Thank you.
Figure out whether that's a possibility.
Thank you. Plans prepared by BDS Design dated October 26, 2021. First floor plan, second floor plan, front street elevation, south elevation, east elevation, and north elevation. Do I have a second?
Seconded, James.
James seconded. I'll take a roll call vote. See who's still awake. James.
Approved.
John.
Yes.
Catherine.
Approved.
Brian Solacey.
Approved.
Jim.
Approved.
Sean.
Approved.
And Sarah approves. I'll write this one. Who would like to review it?
I'll review it, Sarah.
Jim will review it. Okay, fantastic. On the last one. I now will open the public hearing for the application of Brian Stein on behalf of Kevin and Shayna Potter, KSPS Family Trust, for a special permit under sections 4.1.10F, 6.1.2, and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw, and to other relief as may be necessary to install a new pool that will be within a retaining wall at the rear of the house, which will be an accessory use to an existing structure being raised and rebuilt at 17 Proctor Street, Assessors Map 16, Lot number 17, and District E, filed with the town clerk on October 27th, 2021. Mr. Stein, would you like to?
Yes, if I could share my screen again,
Yep,
that'd be great.
just did that.
Okay. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so we are at 17 Proctor Street, Kevin and Shayna Potter. Kevin is on tonight, I believe, as well. So I know many of you were there on the site walk. There's an existing home that you can see in kind of a lighter gray where my cursor is here. That's existing, no existing pool there now. Most of this is open lawn, fair amount of trees up in this corner of the property, and then we have the harbor out to the north. Existing home to the left, and there's a newer home to the right that isn't on this plan. We are proposing a roughly 16 by 32 pool, and then there's a 7 by 7 spa, and then about a 7 by 7 kind of sun deck that's also within the water, all within a retaining wall structure. The site slopes from the street down to the water by quite a bit. So, just given the lay of the land here and wanting to have the pool be fairly private, behind the home, not really in view of the street, that the pool needed to be out in this area. So we do have a bit of a retaining wall on the north side, and this is also under the purview of the Conservation Commission, which we'll be going to fairly shortly this month. So part of that application will be mitigation plantings for other things that we're doing on the property. And so we've taken that opportunity to, in this little kidney-shaped area here, propose some screening plants that are also native that will, take a little bit of the curse off this wall as you see it from the harbor. But, when they're in the pool and on the deck, they'll be able to see out over it. So it won't really impact their view, but it will allow, somebody out in the harbor to see more vegetative, plantings than, the wall of a pool. This is planned to be an infinity pool. So the 32 feet of water will be spilled, spilling over the wall into a spillway. So that will take, again, some of the, hard edge or hard line of the wall away. We are proposing a fence kind of where my cursor is here. There's a proposed area for the pool equipment. Where my cursor is, will be a new fence along the western edge, new fence along the street, and then going back to the house there. There'll be a gate at the bottom of the stairs as well at the on the other side of the pool. In terms of lighting, I'll just run through the plan real quick, but this is just a kind of a blow up of what we saw on the site plan. So you can see the layout of the terrace where it's not a large terrace. We tried to keep the size of the wall down as best we could. There's some elevations here as well. So we have about a 2.5 foot high wall, which will have a planter in it, and then about a 9.5-9'8" wall above that. So we will have plantings in front of the wall, and then also that larger area down below in that kidney-shaped planting area that I showed you a minute ago. This is an elevation from the north. Again, the spillway will be in the center, and then equal sides of probably a granite face on the retaining wall. In terms of lighting, let me go back to the plan here. I've noted just with numbers here, the lights we're planning on having, there'll be a couple lights within the pool itself. And then in terms of lighting on the deck, we'll have a few very low lights that just cast a low light along the surface of the terrace itself. They're a couple inches high in these planting areas. And then there'll be a couple lights in the steps just so for safety, so you can see the steps as you're coming down them. And then there's a couple of the planting areas up near the house here, and those will have a kind of a bollard, a small bollard light that is completely down facing. So you can kind of see what we're looking at here for lighting. The step lights on the left, the bollards in the middle here, and then the low path light on the right. They all provide a very low level of light. They're all down lights, dark sky compliant. And the owner is not wishing to have this completely lit up at night. This is a low key environment. There won't be any floodlights or anything like that. So we want to keep it fairly low key. And I just wanted to kind of point out that, all the pools that kind of surround this property. It's obviously a pretty common use in this area. Almost every house has one, it seems like, along this area of the street. So it's obviously a very common thing in the area. So, and ours will be relatively private from the street. So, and from other properties. Again, willing to entertain any questions you might have.
John Benares, do you have any questions?
No questions here.
Jim Dietrich,
No questions.
James Mitchell,
No questions.
Sean,
No questions.
Brian Solacey. Did we lose him?
I think we lost Brian.
Okay, Catherine?
Are you asking for me?
Yeah, do you have any questions on this application? The pool. Catherine?
I do not have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Did I get everyone? Yeah. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak on this application?
Are you asking me, Catherine?
I asked you if you had any questions on the application. Now I'm asking the public if anybody has a question. You're good, Catherine. Having technology issues. Oh, I don't see anybody who's raised their hand with questions. Catherine, are you typing? Oh, okay. She's saying due to some delay, we can't hear her, but she has no questions. Okay, I will make a motion. I move to approve the application of Brian Stein of.
Yes, I was typing.
Oh, okay. So are you okay? I'm going to make a motion now. Okay. I move to approve the application of Brian Stein of BDS Design Inc. on behalf of Kevin and Shayna Potter, KSPS Family Trust, for a special permit under sections 4.1.10F, 6.1.2, and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw, and other relief as may be necessary to construct a 16 by 32 foot swimming pool and 7 by 7 foot spa with 2-tier retaining walls, stone terrace, and planting beds with low voltage lights and a 4-foot high fence enclosing the pool with locking gates at 17 Proctor Street, Assessor's Map number 16, lot number 17 in District E, filed with the town clerk on October 27th, 2021, based on a finding the proposed use is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the bylaw. The proposed structure will not be more detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood, and all requirements and conditions under section 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw, the grant of a special permit, have been met based on the following conditions. The pool, spa, terrace, and fence are cited in accordance with the site plan prepared by Mill River Consulting dated October 27th, 2021. The pool, spa, terrace, retaining walls, and planters are constructed in accordance with the following plans created by BDS Design dated October 26, 2021. Pool/terrace plan, pool/retaining wall elevations east and west, pool/retaining wall elevation north. All lighting shall be low voltage LED contained within the pool, spa walls, step lights, pathway lighting, and planting beds, and on terrace as depicted in the example lighting fixture plan created by BDS Design dated October 26, 2021. The 4-foot high fence and gate shall be constructed in accordance with the specifications of the Manchester zoning bylaw and the Massachusetts building code. Do I have a second?
James.
James seconds. I'll take a vote. John.
Approve.
Sean.
Approved.
Catherine. Jim Dietrich.
Approved.
Brian Solacey.
Approved.
And Sarah approves.
James Mitchell approves.
James Mitchell approves. Okay, we have enough votes, so we don't need Catherine.
Catherine just texted me saying she approves.
Okay.
Yeah, just tape it in.
I'm texting her like, what the hell is going on with you tonight?
I can write this one. Who would like to review it?
Sarah, if you want, I'm happy to write it too. I have capacity next week.
Oh, okay, and I can review it. If you want to write it, John, I'll review it.
That's fine. Okay.
Okay. So that concludes the public hearings for tonight. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much.
We'll now go on to administrative matters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reviewing of minutes I didn't realize that we hadn't approved the August 25th, so I haven't looked at those recently. So I think we should hold off till December. Have other people reviewed those minutes? No, okay.
I don't
We'll
know
hold
that
off.
you've distributed them.
Yeah. Have people received the September 15th minutes?
No idea.
I don't believe so.
Okay. Let me send out the August and September. Again, we're still waiting for October. Is that correct, Gail? We don't have October.
No, it's on my to-do list.
No, we didn't have an October meeting.
Well, yes, but you did meet and continue, so there'll be
No, we
two
didn't.
paragraphs.
No, we didn't have a meeting.
Well,
oh, we did? Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't it?
It
Yeah.
was kind of, it was a confusing event.
Okay. It was because of the power outage. We had to continue.
Right.
It was very brief.
Okay. Okay. So we'll do the minutes at the December meeting and get caught up on those. Discuss matters related to 40B project. I think we're in pretty good shape. We have received some possible peer reviewers. So we're still waiting for those to come on in. Then we'll send them out and I'll make sure that we get the responses back by probably say December 1st. So you'll have a week to review them before we meet on December 8th. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions on that? Well, do we still have a decision outstanding from September, Gail? Because the minutes
We
haven't.
have one. We
Okay.
have one, and I don't know which one it is, but I will.
Yeah, I think I have one outstanding. And
Okay.
I saw the residents in town recently, and I asked, they're not even close to selecting a GC or anything. That's why I haven't really, put it, gotten it complete yet. But I'll get it done.
I did one Kingsway. The other one is the 91
Pine Street.
Pine Street, and that's. Yep, that's John's. Okay, I'll make sure you have these September minutes, John. I'll send them to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay. And I think Jim is supposed to review that decision.
Yes.
Anything else anybody wants to raise?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, that's right. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And thank you so much for slogging through this meeting with me.
Guys, this is Catherine. I'm really sorry for all my delays.
It's okay.
Sarah, do you think the December meeting will be at the hall or town hall?
Well, we have to announce it. We have to publish it Monday, so I'm thinking not. They're having troubles with technology. Let's hold off until January to do it in person. Can we live with?
Our technology is working so perfectly here.
I was just going to say, can the town please upgrade my internet? Because it's apparently crap.
Yeah, I was having some problems with that too as well.
You got to pay for it, Catherine.
I did. I don't know.
Hey, Catherine, I just wanted to say you
Yes.
look good tonight. You look good tonight.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Can we live with doing it via Zoom in December?
Sure.
We have 3 new applications. And we've got this one continuance. So that's 4.
Hopefully my battery will last that long.
But I'll talk to Gail before we go out to the posting, just kind of see what town hall is saying by then. I had every expectation we would have it for tonight. And there were glitches in the system.
Hey, Sarah?
Yeah.
I will say that it was very refreshing tonight, despite the technological glitches, some of the applicants were able to share screens, and that was really, it made it very easy. So I think it'd be great if we could encourage people to do that as a regular practice on Zoom meetings in the future.
Yeah, I just figured out how to do it.
Well, these professionals are used to doing it, you know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the architects who do this all the time.
Right.
Wait till you see the screen in town hall. It's gigantic.
Okay. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Emotion.
John moves to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Jim seconds. Take a roll call vote to adjourn. John? James?
Yes.
Jim? Sean?
Yes.
Catherine? Brian?
Maybe.
Come on,
Sarah.
Catherine, one last time.
Yes, yes. Catherine says yes.
And Sarah says yes. Thank you all.
Thank you. Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a good night.
Yeah.